Okay, let's jump right in. The last election in Bihar, back in 2020, it was decided by an absolutely razor-thin margin. So now, as we're looking ahead to the 2025 battle, you've got to understand this isn't just another state election. Nope. This is a high-stakes rematch that could actually shift India's entire political landscape.
So that brings up a really good question. Why is everyone talking about this one-state election? Why is it making national headlines? Well, it really boils down to its massive scale, the intense political drama, and its power to send some serious shockwaves through national politics.
The sheer scale of this fight really starts with just one number, 243. That's how many seats are up for grabs in the Bihar Legislative Assembly. Now, the former government, a coalition, has to win at least 122 of them. That makes every single district a potential battleground.
And you'll want to mark your calendars because this whole thing happens fast. Voting is split into two phases, the first on November 6th and the second on November 11th. But the day everyone's waiting for, the real nail-biter, is November 14th. That's Results Day, when we'll find out for sure who gets to govern Bihar.
So, who are the main players here? Well, you can forget about dozens of small parties. This is a straight-up, head-to-head clash between two incredibly powerful alliances. We're talking about political heavyweights here. All right, in one corner, you've got the ruling National Democratic Alliance, better known as the NDA. It's led by the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, and the Janata Dal United, or JDU. And challenging them is the Mahagathbandhan, which translates to the Grand Alliance. It's mainly made up of the Rashtriya Janata Dal, the RJD, and the Indian National Congress.
But here's the thing. These alliances, they're not as solid as they look. They can be pretty fragile. We actually just saw this when the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, or JMM, pulled out of the opposition bloc in Bihar. It's a huge reminder that just keeping these partnerships together is a massive challenge in itself.
Okay, so let's move beyond the political parties for a minute. What are people on the ground actually thinking about when they vote? Let's dive into the key issues that are almost certainly going to decide this election.
It looks like this election is going to be decided on four major fronts. First up, youth and unemployment, a huge concern in a state with such a young population. And that's tied directly to the second issue, migration. You know, with so many people feeling forced to leave Bihar just to find work. Third, there's a really serious debate going on about the integrity of the voter lists themselves. And finally, behind the scenes, both alliances are wrestling with how to split up the seats among their partners.
Let's dig a little deeper into that voter roll issue, because it's important. It's all about something called the Special Intensive Revision, or SIR. Now, this is the official process for updating voter lists, but it's become super controversial. Why? Because reports are coming out from several districts showing huge numbers of names being deleted, especially young people and women. And that's sparking fears that a lot of eligible voters could be turned away on Election Day.
And really, this quote pretty much gets to the heart of everything. Bihar has this massive youth population, and their focus couldn't be clearer. They want jobs, they want economic growth, and they want real reasons to build a future in their home state. Any political party that decides to ignore that message is doing so at its own peril.
You know, to really get why 2025 is shaping up to be so tense, we actually need to rewind the clock to 2020. That election was incredibly close, and it's the main reason everyone's expecting this next one to be another absolute nail-biter.
Just look at these numbers from 2020. I mean, look how close it was. The NDA alliance did win, but with 125 seats, they were just 3 seats over the finish line. The opposition was right on their heels with 110. This wasn't a landslide by any stretch. It was a photo finish, and that's what's setting up this incredibly high-stakes rematch.
But wait, here's a really fascinating twist from that election. Even though the NDA alliance won, the single party that got the most seats was actually the RJD from the opposition. They won 75 seats on their own. And that, right there, perfectly illustrates just how complex and sometimes counterintuitive coalition politics can be in Bihar.
So all of this brings us to the big picture. Why is this one-state election being followed so closely from Delhi all the way to Mumbai? Simple. Because what happens in Bihar doesn't stay in Bihar. The outcome has real, tangible consequences for the rest of the country.
For starters, Bihar is one of India's most populous states, which automatically makes it a political powerhouse. A big win here can create a wave of momentum for a party on the national stage. But it's also a major test case. How these parties handle huge issues here, like jobs and migration, is seen as a preview of their national strategy. And believe me, voters all across the country are watching.
When you get right down to it, this whole race is balanced on a knife's edge. Because that 2020 election was so incredibly close, even a tiny shift in voter turnout or a small swing in just a handful of districts could be enough to completely flip the result and decide who forms the next government.
So, that leaves us with the ultimate question for 2025, doesn't it? In a race this tight, what's going to be the deciding factor? Will it come down to voter turnout? Which side can actually get its base to show up and vote? Or will it be about alliance unity? Which of these coalitions can hold itself together all the way to the finish line? The answer is going to shape Bihar's future for years to come.